All right. Let me know if I walk away from the mic because I have a tendency to like start. Yeah. I'm just realizing I have to stay here, so. Cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Christiansen. I work at Emily Carr University here in Vancouver. I have been making the trip from 3 SkyTrain stations here every year. And I'm going to take you through how we've migrated from having 1 or 2 Mac Minis locally, and now everything running fully on the cloud, and pretty much every operation runs in Git, and everything is version controlled, and it's running on pipelines in the cloud, and all that good stuff that we kept hearing about, and never got to do it until about a year ago when I just realized, okay, it's time to change this. And I'll talk about it as we go through in terms of and change. There we go. Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit about me, really quick, taking the opportunity to be here for the first time, give a sense of what I've been up to. I'm going to wrap it in a bit of a story, like year to year. Not too long, but just to give context on the changes and where we were and where we are now. And then, yeah, that migration, how something that I'm very passionate about, if my team asks me, it's like inventory, and now we're orchestrating our inventory in a very cool cloud way, and some examples. All the resources are going to be in this link, so if you want to follow along, there's a little blurb that I put up there, and then there's a Git repo with samples of the service bus and the pipelines and the Git hooks and all these things. So I'm going to walk through each thing, and then there's some links on the slides for the direct resource. But this is going to have everything. It is a new blog that I just started like a month ago because I'm realizing I should talk about this stuff because it's fun for me. And yeah, so there's the Git repo. A little bit about me. I have a civil engineering degree that I never did anything with. I love computers, and I was halfway through university, and I was like, I have to finish this, but I really wanted to work with technology. I'm from Brazil. I moved to Canada in 2011. I started working in a local company here called Mac and Home at the time when I was going to university. And I would help people with their Macs locally in residential clients. And I would drive around Vancouver helping people with their Macs, with their Wi-Fi, with their iCloud, with their whatever. It was everything you can think about. Sometimes it's just the most basic things. Sometimes it could be complicated. So I'll drive around. That was like 3 years. And then at one point I was looking for an actual job. I happened to send a LinkedIn message to somebody at a place called Mac Station here. And he connected me with the manager at Emily Carr over LinkedIn. And two weeks later, I was working at Emily Carr at a very funky office that we had. This is the old campus, which was on Granville Island. And this was a mystery to me at the time, so 11 years ago. Never really had touched the terminal. And then that summer, I found myself doing a rollout of a lot of Macs. And I was so happy to touch a Mac Pro at the time. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And unboxing and laser etching and all these things. Because my coworker at the time, Jim, who's here, he always takes the summer, and I was kind of like by myself for a whole month just touching aluminum, and that was fun. So at the time we were still doing net booting and imaging and workgroup manager, ARD commands, but we had a little bit of Munki. We were very separate at the time. It was my predecessor was like the staff person, the staff admin, and then Jim was the curriculum, the labs. And then at the time, I'm learning the ropes, I'm figuring this stuff out, and then we started to integrate, our Munki setup to be, okay, let's just have one thing, let's start integrating this thing. We started hearing about imaging being deprecated. I started working on profiles like a madman. I started looking at profiles and keys and everything and building all these manual profiles. We had a template, and I would find keys. It was like a whole year of profiles. And we started kind of creating this let's move away from the monolithic imaging to the very dynamic provisioning. So that was 2016. And in 2017, we got like a really good setup, which is kind of the setup we still have really, because since then, all we want to do is just keep doing what we've been doing since then, mostly. And something really cool that, and still today we do and use is like we created a library of all our packages, and they're all Munki packages, so they're all, everything. Yeah, there we go. Everything is still to this day, now it's 8 years. We can go back and it's like, oh, well, what's this package that we deployed some time ago? We can like look at them. They're all separated by the payload and the scripts, and that builds the dot package. They're all Munki packages. We import it into the repo, and exact same thing for the profiles. Like all the profiles are in one place and they're unsigned, so we can change it. It goes into version control, and when we make an update, everything is in Git. So that's been like how we've been doing it, and I'll show a little bit later. But how it was Git, but it was kind of inverse because we were just making changes locally. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. And so that is the setup. And at the time, we were like, hey, we should look at this MDM thing because we keep hearing about it. Didn't do anything. In 2018, we had like really solid, fully provisioning. Everything's like dynamic, automated, and then we started getting into like bootstrapping, more fun stuff with bootstrapping, all these things. But then it's like, oh, MDM. Okay, we come here and we hear about MDM. We're in Slack channel, all these things. And then in 2019, it was like, oh, we have to MDM because we started to have things that we can't change, as everybody knows. And then at the time, we don't have a lot of budget, so we are looking at open source a lot, and we like open source, so we ended up setting up a micro MDM. After a lot of convincing our managers, we got an AWS account. Because we're in a university, there's a lot of like privacy stuff and Canadian privacy and all these things. And I think it was at the time that AWS finally had like a data center in Canada, so we were able to do that. Anyway, it lined up. We built MicroMDM, but we really still wanted to do everything through Munki. So we started using this thing, which didn't really get a lot of traction. We still use it to this day, although we're migrating away soon. But which is basically like we version control all of our profiles and all of our VPP. When we lost the ability to install profiles with the command line, we still kept doing it through Munki. We basically have a package info, and then the package info has an a post-install script that runs an install application, and if we're removing it, there's a disassociate application, which removes it from the device, and we still do this to this day. I've increased the security a little bit because there was some funky security initially with the whole middleware thing, but it's fine. So anyway, in 2020, we all are remote. We had an AWS account, so it was easy to kind of move it. We terraformed it. It was all that good stuff. And then all of these years that come later, it's like things going away, and all we want to do is like keep doing what we're doing. How can we keep doing what we're doing? Because security keeps coming up, and like signing, and Python going away, and secure tokens, and notarization, and bootstrap tokens, and all these things, right? So I'm not going to talk about all these years because because we all know how they went, and we are here. Yeah, as I said, like really, how can we just keep doing what we are already doing since like 2017, but now it's in a very secure way, right? It's like all the packages are notarized and everything is notarized. And then November 2020, there's some changes in the team. A manager left, and then there was a gap, and then they invited me to become the devices admin and add this thing to my to my portfolio, which is super fun. We have now 2 Mac admins, and then there's 2 Windows admins, and I'm the device admin, so it's a team of 5. And the first year, it was really just like watching and like, how do these guys do? Because we had a sense of like, we think they are like a mess. We think it's a mess, but we don't know. And I'm not going to get involved. But then I had to start looking at that, and it's like, nothing is in source control. They're still imaging. It's like these two local on-prem VMs that they image. It's this vendor that I'm not even going to mention the name. There's no MDM, and literally everything is a black box where you like who did what, where, when. Like I don't know. Like who knows? You know, like they go to the GUI and they click, and it's all like click off stuff, right? And no documentation. Like literally Word files of screenshots and. Anyway, just shivers. Like I literally for a year, I just have to watch this. I can't even like comprehend what I'm gonna do here. So, early 2023, we migrated everything to Microsoft, so it became like a very heavy Microsoft tenant with Exchange. We had like a local mail server, on-prem mail server until 2023. Super fun. LDAP, all that stuff. Anyway, we did a big migration. It's much better. I'm a Mac head, but I'll have to say all the Microsoft stuff's pretty good. Very complicated, but very good. And so we got this going on, and we're still running basically what I mentioned, which is this, which is, I love Git. Git rocks. It's freaking fantastic. I don't have to talk about this here, but you got all the goodies. You can roll back, you can scale, you can document as you go, and all these things. So what we had, basically, it was these two local servers. There's always a main one, and depending on what was going on with the network, we sometimes needed to switch back and forth, because sometimes with a mess. Like one of them used to run our Munki report. It would break every so often until we moved to AWS, and it's been stable. But we would literally just work on these servers and VNC in, and then fight over sometimes like, hey, I'm going to log into the server, and I'm going to work on the repo and whatever. And then we would push it, and we were using Git, but it was after the fact. It's like, hey, I pushed this change, and then maybe at the end of the day, I'm going to spend 10 minutes and like write up what I did. Maybe I'll just do like a bulk commit, or maybe I'm going to be like, spend the time to actually do everything. So this is during the pandemic time, and like we have a local off-prem repo, so that's fine. But what in 2014, I was just like, this is like, we kept going because now we're 3 people and we're fighting over things and what have you. And I was just like, I just declared it, like, this is broken. I'm done with this. This needs to change. And just like, I'm going to figure it out. So we had that Git was like a local on-prem GitLab. CentOS, it was always needed patching, and security guys were on top of us. And I just like, okay, let's try a cloud GitLab. Okay, let's move it to the GitLab. And we had Azure, we created a little VM, started using it. It's like, it's fine. I don't have anything against it, but figuring out the runners to try to do a CI/CD for me, I just could not figure out. It was so confusing. I spent like 3 weeks just working on that, and it was so complicated. And then I started doing Kubernetes clusters with Helm, and it was just so confusing. And for somebody that, because I'm busy with all this other stuff too. So I was just like, okay, this is not good. What can I use instead? And started looking around. I was like, okay, forget GitLab. Somebody was telling me about Azure DevOps. I started playing around with it. We had it because of now we're a Microsoft tenant, SSO logins, pretty easy. I set up a subscription, set it up, started using the repo, and I was like, oh, this is kind of simple. Like I have my stuff, my files, I have my everything I need, and then I have pipelines, and I can just run actions on it, and then it's a little VM. I boot up a Mac, and it runs a VM Mac, and I can install Munki, and I can do stuff. And I was like, oh, this is pretty simple. It's pretty cool. So I started using it, started creating some artifacts, just playing around with it very slowly. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm done. We're going to move to this. And we started using it. You can have all the Git stuff. I know everybody's on GitHub, and it's great. But for the internal stuff, this was really good to have. And all the pipelines, it's very robust. There's a lot of actions. And then you can always just run a Python script inside of it. It's a little VM that you can just boot up. You can get a Ubuntu or a macOS image, just boot it up. We basically run everything out there. Like every action on a commit, if it needs to, runs a pipeline. And yeah, we have a fully DevOps Munki, and I'm going to walk you through now, and then we'll get to the meat of the presentation. So basically, every admin has a local repo. We're committing, pulling, pushing all these things. All these things. One of the key things that I'm going to show, which is the hooks, the Git hooks, which I don't hear much about, because initially I was trying to do Munki with the middlewares that there's out there, like a middleware for Azure, there's a middleware for S3, and when you run, say, Munki import, at the end of the Munki import, it will upload the package that you imported. But we started having some sync issues where it's like, oh, somebody imported it, and then the middleware runs, and I haven't yet pulled or synced. It just wasn't working. I actually, honestly, was just like, I'm not gonna look at how much people are doing this. I'm just gonna, like, what is out there? And I kept searching, and the middleware was not the answer for us, but I figured out the Git hooks, which I'll talk about in more detail. And that was what kind of nailed it, because then it synced over when we push a package info, the packages go up or down at the same time, and they're linked up. Sorry, I missed it. Anyway, I'm gonna go through each of these anyway, so let's go forward. Quick detour. I mentioned the inventory. When I see this, I'm super surprised by this every time I see this, when somebody has the end user put some sort of like inventory information and be like, hey, what's your asset tag, or what's your department, or things like that. Because the way that we set up the inventory is, it used to be a numbers spreadsheet on a local Mac on-prem that we would just export with a OSA script, and it was the same thing. It was that same Mac that had the Munki repo, also had the inventory on a local CSV that we would export. But the way that we set it up is the Munki preflight always looks at a CSV from the inventory and knows, like, who am I? Like, what's my manifest? What is my department? And it makes it very easy for us to, like, change manifests and change, like, if somebody changes the department and they need different printers, the repo has the printers that they need, for example, or what have you, right? So when I started doing the migration to Azure DevOps, the inventory became the thing that was like, oh, I'm going to start with that, because if I can do this on a cloud, fully cloud, operations, it's going to be like a really good training wheel for us to get started. So after looking around, we set it up on Snipe, which is pretty good. I don't know how well known it is, but it's a really good inventory. I did a serverless setup on Azure. It's Terraform. I even like published the Terraform. If anybody wants to use it and spin it up, it does like literally everything. It gives you the Postgres database. It gives you the app service, and even set up the database certificates between the, all of them. It's pretty awesome. And Snipe itself is really good because it has an API. So we moved from this like local numbers file to, okay, now we have a full API inventory, and I ended up creating this, which is we have Snipe. I poll it every minute. It doesn't have webhooks, unfortunately, but I just create a poller that checks. It exports a CSV, and then it puts it in a staging cache, like a local cache first. And then if there is a change on the inventory, it compares the hash, and it will generate a PR for the changes on on Azure DevOps. And then we can review the PR. And then if we approve, there's a pipeline that runs, and then that creates the CSVs for each system. Because like all of these everything that's yellow is an Azure function, which mostly it's in Python, because I use Python a lot and I understand it. And then what we have is the poller creates the PR. We look at it and we're like, is this right? Like, if we're doing like a batch change, we just want to review it, because that's going to actually affect the Munki operations of that device. Like, it's going to decide what it gets or not gets. So we want to make sure it's correct. And we run the pipe. Oh, sorry. And anyway, it will get to a production Munki CSV, which is what it looks at. And then the other systems get it as well, because, for example, MicroMDM needs the serial numbers of the blueprints. When we're bootstrapping, say, a lab computer, we use Auto Advance. So I want to make sure that the serial numbers for my curriculum devices are in the JSON for the MicroMDM. And for staff devices, we don't want Auto Advance. So that micro MDM JSON, there's one per, is sets up from my inventory. So when I make an order from the vendor and I'm getting devices, we're buying 25 iMacs. Okay, these are curriculum. It goes into the inventory as curriculum. That's going to go to the CSV of micro for curriculum. And then when we boot up the Mac, it auto advances, for example, right? And that all comes from the inventory. So it's like a central place that we can fully control, and it's all in Git. So we can see it, like, it changes. It's very clear who did what, when, and then it pushes through a pipeline to all the other systems. That's what it looks like. This is my computer, for example, and that's where that's the Munki information. So my Munki manifest is going to come from our inventory. All the devices we do it like this. So it determines everything, and then the difference is now, instead of having the numbers, we have something that's really fully cloud. So one quick thing is I'll talk about it really quick, but we're migrating to Intune eventually for reasons, and I've been doing a lot of work with, okay, how can I do Intune and Entra in a DevOps way and setting up all these things. So one example is the inventory information creates that CSV that Entra will generate as groups. So I'm generating all the groups in Entra that are the same as my Munki repo, because now there's things that I can do in Entra when the machines are in Intune. That's another thing. Anyway, let's go ahead. All right. The main thing is we each have, oh, I already talked about this. Sorry. Okay, so the Git hooks go, and then we have the pipeline in the middle that actually runs the commits to the cloud. And the other thing that's different, or I don't know, kind of unique, I think, or I haven't seen many people do it, which is how do I update the local cache for these devices, for these machines locally? Because I don't want everybody to talk to the cloud, right, and network resources and all these things. So when the pipeline successfully updates the production for Munki, it sends a message like an RSS feed for a queue. If you're in AWS, it's the SQS, or in Azure, it's a service bus. And that actually tells the local servers, hey, I need to update myself. It runs the Git pull, and it updates the local cache. And I'm going to show this in more detail. Okay, so we all have a repo locally, like literally everything, like every computer of the admins, we have all the packages locally. So it's like 350 gigs. This is what just locally we have everything, because then everything's in sync, and you push and pull all, like everything, basically. This is how we structure our repo, the Munki repo. So now that this is all DevOps and cloud, like we also keep the Terraform in there. We keep the functions in there, which is the basic auth and everything, and all those packages from years ago, and that we keep updating when we need, and all the pipelines. So that's how I structure it. It works really well. It's pretty clear for everybody. If somebody like looks at it, it's like, oh, I can understand most of it. So Git hooks. There's two hooks that you need. The post merge is for when you run git pull, which basically is you run a script before Git pulls something, and then pre-push upload. So it's basically a download upload for the packages, because the version control only has manifests and package infos, but it doesn't have any packages because we don't want to version control the binaries and all of these things. So there's no middleware. All it's doing, it's running, it's a shell script, and it will trigger every time and sync the packages down for the post-merge, and then it will upload for the pre-push. So before you push up, okay, I'm going to upload all the packages, because let's say I import a bunch of apps on my local repo. I've imported Munki import. I have it locally, but before I commit, when I'm sending the package info, I'm also sending the packages up, and then it's in sync. And that's been like the way that we haven't been out of sync pretty much since we've implemented this. And the one thing that this script does, which I have an example up in, everything is in that first link, so what it does here is actually checks if you're behind. I'm not going to allow you to push, because then you're going to go out of sync. So it does a check, and then it will actually git pull if you're out of sync. So you're always kind of ahead in the main. And then the pipeline, the main pipeline. So when you do a push, you do that VM. It boots up. It runs Munki make catalogs, and then it pushes that to S3. It runs like that. It's pretty cool. Kind of fun to watch. I also have examples, and the Terraform. You got a storage function that does the basic auth, which is a very popular Terraform project from Graham. And I have a version for Azure if anybody wants to use it. So in Azure you have FrontDoor instead of CloudFront. It's just all the same, and you're instead of doing a Lambda, you're doing an Azure function. And then there's a pipeline that I also run. So if I change something in the infrastructure, let's say whatever it might be, I actually run a pipeline to maintain that. So one of the pipelines is to maintain the infrastructure as it is, and then if I update a function, it also updates the function that talks to makes everything talk to each other. Okay, and now the local caching server that I talked about. So there's two servers. Each of them has a queue, so they are listening to one queue for each of them. And then the DevOps pipeline pushes it to the service bus. That arrow actually needs to be, it's the pipeline that talks to the service bus. And then it's like an RSS feed. It's listening. It gets a message, and then once it gets a message, this is what you set it up as a hook, and then you just say this is the topic that you want to send it to. The local Mac is running a node script that is listening and a daemon, and it will log into DevOps with an Entra service principal, just an identity, and it resets the local hard. There's a hard reset because the caching I always want it to be exactly what the cloud is. Ignores any change if happens to be there's been a change locally or whatever. It will ignore that. And then just update it. It runs like this. It will do, hey, I've received a message. Okay, great. I'm gonna log in. Logged into Azure DevOps. I'm gonna get the repo. Downloaded some updates, and then at the end of that, it runs. If you're in S3, it will run a S3 sync. So it downloads everything, and then it's updated. And then those two are running local Apache servers that just broadcast to the local network. And then we do the pre-flight on Munki has a dynamic way that is checking which one do I talk to, simply based, am I on campus, not on campus. I'm going to talk to on campus if I'm on campus. It's basically doing a ping before deciding what's my repo, essentially. And I have samples of the pre-flight in Python, and then there's a sample in Swift because Munki is losing Swift. It's moving to Swift with version 7. So I decided to make the pre-flight on Swift. So there's a sample up there for that. And that is it that's basically the infra. And what I'm going to go towards is we're going to migrate from microMDM to Intune because of many reasons from up above. And what I want to do with Intune is kind of replicate this whole thing that we've been doing for years, which is essentially I just want to use Munki for everything, and I just want everything else to be just taken care of. So I've been creating these pipelines and all these API calls to basically make these three invisible. So my infrastructure is in Azure, Intune is managing the devices, Entra is dealing with the identities and the groups, and the devices just are managed. But really, I just want to Git orchestrate, and that's what this is allowing us to do. So for example, for mobile configs, the way we're going to do it with Intune is I have all those profiles that I've talked about. In Intune, what I'm doing is I'm running a pipeline that looks at the manifest of when I'm setting the profiles that I want a device to get or a group of devices to get. It will match that to an Entra group, and which means, okay, if these devices need to get this profile in Munki, in Entra, you're going to assign that profile to that group. So that gives me a way to manage profiles with Munki in Intune. You could do this with other MDMs if you're like very heavy on Munki potentially, and that's the pipeline. So it detects changes to anytime I change a profile, it will push it to Intune, update it. If it's already exists, it does a patch API call. If it doesn't exist, creates a post, and then it assigns to the groups based on the manifest. Create a dictionary of all the profiles, what manifest has which profile, and then it does the logic on a Python script, and then VPP apps for managed apps, which are two of the things that when we were planning to migrate from micro, was like the two things that we need the MDM regardless is profiles and VPP apps. And then you can see like these are all the profiles, and then it creates all the calls for each of them in Intune. It creates them on that dashboard that I never want to open. The space to edit a profile on Intune is like this little tiny box. It's just like I can't. I basically never want to open any of those things. We just want to work on Git, and the MDM is behind the scenes doing what it needs to do, but we're orchestrating it with it. Yeah, and that is Munki repo on GitOps. Oh, there's one more thing. I am going to do this for Macs, which is already working, but I'm going to do this for Windows because I don't want to do another model because I love this model. So what I'm doing, which maybe next year I can present about it, is I'm going to replicate this whole thing for Windows, and that's going to be fun. I have a tool that I'm developing. There was one project called Gorilla that was kind of abandoned hasn't really gotten attention since 2021. I picked it up. I started creating, I'm going to actually create a replica of what Munki does, and I'm going to create a tool that on Windows does everything the same. It's literally the same. I was kind of hoping that Greg would be here because I was going to ask permission to do this, because I've taken pretty much every idea that I could see in there to match it. If you run make catalogs on the Windows side, it's literally the same thing. The messages look the same, everything's the same. But it's all YAML instead of XML, which is really nice, I have to say. I kind of love YAML now. So we have a repo now. I'm like 2 months away from being done, but we're starting to use it. And this is a manifest. It's in YAML, and you're like, okay, these are the managed installs, these are the managed profiles, and etc. And then included manifests, you can do dependent on. This is a package info. That Gorilla project, for example, didn't have package info, so I came up with the whole thing for, okay, how do we create package infos for this? Post install script, uninstall scripts, install arrays, depends on, update for, all the Munki keys, everything, basically. It's up on GitHub. It's still on the dev. I'm only doing commits in dev because it's not really done or public, but it's there if you want to follow it. And the other thing is Simi package. So Simi and package is basically Munki package, but for Windows, to install, to create a new package, which it's a whole thing, but it's the same structure. I have a payload, I have scripts, and I have a build info. So if I want to deploy a package, put disks on the file and run a script on the same structure, it works, and it works really well, and it's like, oh, this is great. So it's basically a match. So yeah, maybe I'll do a talk next year if it goes well. And that is it. Thank you.